bit of an intro here, Cris Casey, M&A execution expert. And it's nice of other people to join us in on this, even though we've already started the conversation, because it was most important for us. But it's nice of everybody else to join us. So, Cris,
Gotcha.
this is actually the first time we've met. And I've looked through your LinkedIn profile. You've been at this a while. You've done a heap of different things. You really have, from software right the way through to M&As and everything. So, are you able to give us a bit of a guide? What have you learnt in that time frame? Just tell us everything, but make it in 30 seconds, if you could.
Yeah. Well, what I've learned is that if I take all of my operational experience as a practitioner working for clients, right? Different clients. So I'm not
Mm,
essentially following a career path through an organization. I'm slicing through essentially to the innermost workings of these organizations to help them do things, right? And a lot of that, what I when I reflected on it late last year, early last year, about a year ago now, um, I was looking and I said, there's a huge amount of what I've been doing that's in the M&A space. And I've never really held out myself as an M&A expert. But at the end of the day, what happens is, well, yeah, I did this re-engineering piece, and it was part of a $250 million acquisition where we, laid in new field service platforms, and all these things started to build up. And so I turned around and said, okay, well, um, I was fortunate enough to land a client who had three transactions that I was able to essentially line up all of my methods and say, okay, well, we're going to use this method for this one. And that was $1 billion carve-out divestiture. Um,
yep.
Here was a $300 million spinoff, and here was a little $10 million acquisition. And
Mm,
so it was like at the end of that process, and I'm doing these on my own as a sole practitioner, and
right.
I'm marshaling the resources of my customer. And of course, I'm also working within the customer framework because every customer has a different technology stack, right?
Yep,
A, a,
absolutely.
a, diff,
And
a
every
different
purchase has one too.
right, and the ecosystem is different, and the processes are different. Um, so I got and I did all these things, and it was like at the end of it, I said, okay, well, I think I've got enough material here to essentially um, take this and wrap it all up in a method, and so that's what I've done. Um, so yeah, I touch on all the areas, Craig. Started out in the Marcom area. So I cut my teeth on doing rapid turnaround targeted communications across a variety of different mediums, and then into bespoke software development, and then of late into this program project management type of world.
It doesn't sound like you and I have traveled too distant a road. I started out, and none of my viewers have heard me tell my story, so this is a first for me, and it's with you. So I started out as a programmer, an IT computer programmer. Then I went on to technical stuff and birth of the PC network, and I did the very first internet connection or commercial internet connection here in Australia for a business. So first .com in
Nice.
Australia, which was pretty different. And then as I started to move around, because I get bored easily, I like a challenge, I like different stuff. Uh, if any of this rattles true, just give me a
Oh
point
yeah.
there. So then I started moving around and venture capitalists. Oh, we want to put 14 factories around the world together. Oh, and here's another half a dozen hospitals that want to be put together. So you develop a skill set, and once you start to get a few across the line, people say, oh, he must know something. He must know what he's doing. And well, just between you and I, not so much. It was just a matter of learning the ropes, learning, okay, this has to go in place. But after you spend 20 years of going around and doing these random M&A projects, not every single one, but oh yes, here's another 14 factories, and you pick up a few skills here. And then recently I had to do some work for an aged care centre that were acquiring businesses, and they got me in and they said, hey, can you write us a playbook on this? How can we go about doing this? We want to double our size and we want to do it in the next 18 months. Can you write us a playbook? But they didn't just want that. They said, oh, we've just acquired 5 sites, independent sites, not connected at all. Can you bring those on board as well in your spare time? And by the way, we're going to give you 20 days to do it. Oh, but the lawyers have got involved. Sorry. You've only got 10 days. The
Yeah.
lawyers chewed up the other 10 days. So you've only got 10 days to do this. Can you do that for us? So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was the style of things that I've been involved with. I had another one. You'll love this one. It was a carve out from Lion Nathan of their non-alcoholic beverages. And I got a call and they said, oh, we've got 6 weeks to do this. There's a $2 million a month penalty if we don't get it done. It's 14 factories and 2 distribution centers. Uh, I described it to them as, look, what you've got here is a steam train going down a hill with a brick wall at the end and no brakes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Uh, so,
It's
yeah.
yeah. The client stories are they're amazing in terms of some of the things that people ask for. But a lot of it's telling too. I was doing a rescue project for a big clinical research organization who was uh, trying to do an upgrade of their financial system. And they were also at the same time they were doing the upgrade, they were bringing on two additional modules. One of them a project management module, and the other one a procurement module. And this company, due to its nature, it had roughly 65 different countries it was working with
Cool.
that each had its own thing because they were moving these clinical studies from country to country depending on what the regulatory environment was, right? Oh, can we test this chemical in this country? No, they
And
don't
what the
allow
tax
that.
incentives were, I bet, as well.
Exactly. So the I was brought in by the controller who I had worked with. He was at a previous company, and this was a job that he had picked up. And he brought me in. And he said, "I don't know what to do. The consultants who we have working on this have had 2 failed go live attempts already." And and the chairman of the board and the CEO are breathing down, and my boss, the CFO, are breathing down my neck because finance was the one who decided they were going to run the project, and they also selected the underlying vendors without doing proper scrutiny of what they were getting into. And so I'll share two small slivers of this. So at one point, I turn to him and I say, "Who can?" And this is like within the first hour or two of me arriving. I said,
Yep.
contractually, who's responsible for testing? And he looks at me and he says, well, the consultants are responsible for testing. And I said, well, how do they know that the results are right if you guys don't have any skin in the game? And he said, well, that's a good question. Let's ask them. And so the consultants, he said, you guys are doing the testing. And they said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. No, we're not. And it was like, huh?
Has,
No.
has any have
Um,
any of these people seen the movie Cool Hand Luke?
yeah.
What we have here is a failure to communicate.
Yeah. So we kind of got that straightened out, and we're able to bring the thing on over the line. But during the course, this is after the discussion of the testing. I'm sitting in his office after hours, and he says, I just don't understand it. And I said, well, Gerald, what don't you understand? He said, uh, just the level of loyalty and dedication that the people in the company have to doing these important projects, and it just seems like pulling teeth. And I said, well, loyalty. I said, you've been around and you've been responsible for over the last 15 to 20 years offshoring huge amounts of the labor that's involved for this. Companies have been hiring or basically offering their employees severance packages and that are contingent upon training their low cost offshore replacements. I said, well, oh, and this is driven by accounting. This is driven by finance.
Yep.
It's not driven by the operations. And he just looked at me and I said, you are the one who's responsible for this. And he just kind of shook his head and he said, I guess you're right. Um, and so at that point, he had a little bit of shift of attitude, um, you know, based on what he was asking these people who are outside of his area, but also inside his area, what he was asking them to do in light of these decisions that finance had made that IT, for one, had advised him against. Um, so, but you run into that all the time. So I not that I love those situations, but my role is basically, as I'm sure yours is to stand back and say, look, I'm not going to take sides here, but I'm going to tell you this is how it looks. You screwed up over here by not doing this, and you guys screwed up over here because you took on too much, and you should have broached this topic that this was a recipe for disaster. So
Hmm.
yeah, all of that. It's an amalgam of experience. Unfortunately, um, I think that at least for lone sole practitioners, um, the the flood, I'll call it a flood of project and program managers who are in the pipeline, right? Who would be picking up and doing this type of work is just, it's unbelievable. You know, and and because of that, I'm looking to do something else. And this is this small slice. When I looked at all my background and I looked at what I could affect, I just picked this very, very narrow slice of M&A execution because and hopefully this rings true to you, those efforts, uh, be they 20 days long or 200 days long, they all follow basically the same pattern and they all have the same issue, which is this cross functional and cross entity miscommunication of critical data.
Okay,
And it all,
we can finish the talk there. You got it.
okay. All right. Fantastic. So that's what my method, which is called. So tell me about your tell me about what's going on in Australia, because I know what's happening in the States and what a I'll call it a fecal show of offerings that are out there in the M&A space. How have you been doing with your podcasts? Are you building up an audience? I mean, what? Tell me about what the market
Well,
environment is in
the
Australia.
market environment in Australia is the dollar has fallen from 66 cents compared buying 66 US cents for $1 Australian. It's now fallen to buying 61 cents of a US dollar. So we've
Yikes!
dropped there. We are very attractive right now to foreign investment and very attractive to rolling up different organizations
Uh,
into the larger organizations and make global organizations. Given our location with Asia above us, the US to the right, Dubai and the like to the left, then we are in a good time zone, really. It seems we're out of time with everybody else. We're set, but we we can reach both sides of
right.
the money
Yes.
market at the moment. So that's not bad for Australia. There is a lot happening. There's a lot of M&As happening in Australia right now. And I think that 2025 is really, that's going to escalate greatly. So it is a very good environment for this business right now. However, there's some cowboys out there, and I spoke with a cowboy last night, and I I had the feeling that it was a scam when I got the invitation to come on board and talk and find out more about this. Then I said, okay, I need he wanted me to come on board as a non-executive director. And I said, I'm going to need to talk to the other people involved. He said, oh, they don't know much at this stage. He said, I don't see the benefit of it. And I'm getting around to why I'm telling this story, but I said no. I said M&As are all people based. I said it's entirely people focused. I know what we've done here today has been very technical, very detailed, very process oriented, which isn't my usual style. But when you come across something like Crisp, you've got to get into some detail. So that's good. But M&As are a people business, really. And developing relationships. You're hopping into bed with someone for about 5 years when you do an M&A. Really. If you're going to get the profit back and get those synergies back, you're jumping into bed with them for about 5 years to get that back. Or you're going to do what most people do and lose the profits. 70% of them, they just lose the profits. That's not what I want. And you can see by the logo up the top there, it's not what I do. So this conversation went on for just a little bit longer. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit about you. How many M&As have you done? Oh, well, this is the president of the company. He said, I haven't done any. Okay. I said, so how many due diligences have you been through the process of? Because he was finding my questions a bit hard to answer. He said, you asked too many questions. I said, you've got to think that for any due diligence on any M&A at all, you are not going to get out of it. The buyer is going to ask the seller a minimum of 1,000 questions as an absolute minimum. I said, so if you don't like questions, I said, this really isn't the industry for you to be in. And I said, I'm looking through the LinkedIn profiles of the people you've given me. I said, I can't see any M&As in there. I said, and you only having 38 LinkedIn connections, I said, really isn't inspiring me at all. But I said, okay, let's get down to it. I said, what's your plan? What's your strategy? He said, well, we're going to get this board of directors sorted first, and then we're going to build a plan. I said, what's your financial forecasts? He said, oh, that's going to come after we build the plan once we've got the board of directors. I said, right. I said, well, I don't talk to anybody without a plan. And I said, unless you can show me the money. I said, I need to know where the money is to find out whether. He says, oh, we're looking to buy $100 million worth of aged care facilities, and we're looking to do this. And he said, the minimum aged care facilities we're looking at is $5 million. I said, well, I can tell you straight out. I said, you don't buy an aged care facility for under 15. I said, so where's your clinical care manager? I said, who's going to be doing the clinical care due diligence? He said, oh, we'll hire good people. Hmm. I said, may I make a suggestion? I said, after we get off this call, get onto my LinkedIn profile and go and read some of the 50 to 70 LinkedIn articles that I've written on this. I said, bring yourself up to speed. I said, what makes you think that you can do this? And this is why I said at the beginning of this story, I know I've been talking a lot. I'm a little irate about it, actually, because of, he said, I did a course. He said, so that's why
There
I'm
you
out doing
go.
this. I said, excellent. I said, that's what this industry needs is amateurs going out there because they've done a course. No, 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 just no. You, you've got to have the. My podcast is called Merger and Acquisition Profits, M&A Profits, Lessons from the Trenches. It's
Yeah.
because you've got to be out there, you've got to have done this. And sure, I haven't done everything right in my history. I've made mistakes. I've learnt the lessons. But better still, the reason that I've done this podcast, and you did ask about it, thank you, is so that people can learn from the mistakes I've made, that my guests have made. And this person yesterday, they're just cowboys. Done a Probably done a 2, maybe 5 day course. Oh, I said, so have you got the money sorted out, the finances? Who's going to capitalize all of this? He
Yeah,
said,
that
oh
was my
no, he said,
question.
you got to be sitting down for this one. He said, we're going to do vendor finance. I said, do you know
Vendor,
how many?
vendor finance. Wow. For and this is for managed care facilities. Whoa, he's got his chapters mixed up.
I said, do you know how many vendor finance deals that I have been able to verify over the last 8 years? One.
Oh
Just
wow.
one.
One.
I
It
said,
must have been an extraordinary situation.
oh, we could have a whole other story about that one. It was all to do with the land mass. The land mass, the monstrous great warehouse. Yes, the street frontage and the ability to be able to build along that 2-story treatment facilities that could be, you've got to look at things differently sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other story that we could cover. So I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write your name down. I'm going to write your 4 people's names down. I said, I'm going to make my people aware of these names. And I said, straight after this, I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to remove you from my LinkedIn profile because I don't want anybody to think that I know you.
That's,
So you asked how the industry is. Australia is ripe at the moment. But my concern is that there are going to be cowboys out there, that we are going to be inundated
yeah.
by cowboys. And I don't want that.
Well, I'm hoping that they'll get sorted out pretty quickly because you know as soon as they start trying to raise money. Although I've seen money raised for things that I just look at it and I say, you got to be kidding. What angle have they convinced you that this has some sort of merit? But,
People will be
you know,
hurt. People are going to be hurt if these cowboys, and I have sent a connection request off to the trainer of that organization, and I'm going to be asking him for a meeting to discuss what he's actually doing and what he's doing in Australia, because we've got to eradicate this behavior.
this isn't skills development group, is it?
I wasn't going to mention the name, but do you want the name? Are you going to force it out of me?
Well, no, I'm just wondering because I have a good personal friendship, although we did a little bit of business with oh they're based out of New Zealand. Um, Soft Ed was the name of the company, and they got sold to Skills Development Group, and they're a training outfit.
No, well, I don't
So,
know
but
this gentleman's name, and I must say here, I haven't spoken to him. I don't know his business at all, so I don't want to be disrespectful or discourteous to him. All I can say is
understood.
this is the name that I was given as the trainer of this person yesterday. His name is Dan Penner, the $1 trillion man, and he's based in the UK.
Oh, okay. So he's a
I
do you
just
know
don't
who
know who he is.
Tony Roberts is?
I do,
The
but no, I
like a
personally,
like a self-help type guy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know
okay.
who he is,
Well,
but I prefer to deal with the likes of Adam Coffey, uh, who is exceptional at this style, and that's where I get my support from.
gotcha.